Hi, this is a video response to abstech1's 200 subscriber competition. He wanted to know what people's favourite comic book character was, why that was their favourite character, and what their favourite comic was that had that character in there. There's been some brilliant videos put up by some great people from this community with some fantastic characters and some amazing comics that have been put up. I don't think I'm going to be the only person who has chosen this character. I will give you a clue who it is. If you need more of a clue, it's Spider-Man. I mean, I could choose hundreds of characters to be my favourite character. There have been loads of comics that have been poignant to me over the years. Starman, James Robinson's Starman, was a phenomenal series as far as I was concerned, and you know, it's I've seen so much stuff in that comic series that has paralleled things in my own life. Not everything that was in it, has happened to me. I mean, I don't have any kids, and I don't have a cosmic rod that I use to defeat villains with, and that. But the whole, the liking of antique stuff and old stuff, um, and other certain aspects of the character that I can actually relate to. Um, there's the Flash, Barry Allen, the Flash. His comic book character, his was the first comic that I read, which was a proper American comic, which was full color. It was one of the first comics I saw that was completely in color. And as well as that, he was the Barry Allen, the Flash, was one of the reasons why I decided I wanted to do things like work in laboratories and become a scientist and that. Sadly, I never actually went down that road totally, and I'd done all the physics and chemistry and that, and got all the stuff that I needed to do to be able to do it. But I ended up taking another route instead. Um, there's other characters: Superman, Batman, the Creeper. Um, I could sit here and make loads of videos just by naming the characters that have and the comics that have had some effect on me, down in my in my lifetime. Sorry, um, but every time I always come back to Spider-Man, and possibly it's because it was one of the first comics that I actually read uh, years and years ago when I must have been about 4 or 5 years old, and my parents wanted me to learn to read and to enjoy reading and that, so they thought that giving me comics would be an idea. So they gave me the weekly British reprints that they used to take one issue and cut them down into 3 or 4 parts, and then those parts would be printed weekly in the comic books. Um, Strange enough, with Spider-Man, he is one of those characters that I've only recently, in the last 10, 15 years, has started to actually buy the American comics. All the comics that I read of Spider-Man have been from the British reprint, the weekly comics. Uh, that was the first place that I read one of my favourite, in fact, if not my absolute favourite Spider-Man story of all time. Um, the reason why I like Spider-Man, it's because I can empathise with the character so much. Not necessarily with the wall crawling and the superpowers and all the massive adventures that he has, but more with the day-to-day lifestyle that he has. I mean, he still has to go to work. He still has to make money so that he can do things like you know build his web shooters and create the web fluid and such. Um, when Peter Parker first appeared in comic books, he was the nerdy, socially inept. Um, he was the kid that was bullied at school because he was nerdy, and he found it hard to interact with the other kids. I was bullied at school. I was the socially awkward, the nerd. I always had my nose in a book or in a comic book. Um, you know, I can empathise with the character of Peter Parker, but also, in a way, I can also empathise with the character of Spider-Man, because going back to being bullied at school, Spider-Man had his own set of bullies. Okay, they were called supervillains, and they were in his rogue gallery, but they were still bullies, and they were still bullies that Spider-Man managed to defeat. He didn't always do it by using his fists. He sometimes outwitted them by using his brains, which I think is one of the best ways to defeat a bully. It's not by using your hands, but by using your head. Um, and it taught me to stand up for myself. Spider-Man taught me to stand up for myself. Spider-Man taught me to, um, if even though I was different to a certain extent, even though it seemed like I was different, um, Spider-Man taught me that that didn't necessarily mean it was a bad thing to be different. There's loads of things that I could say about Spider-Man that I can empathise with. But I think the main thing is it's the fact that he is a character that you can relate to. Everybody's got to go to work. Everybody's got to earn a living to be able to do the things that they enjoy or the things they need to do. And this is one of those characters that, even though he's running around with other superheroes, even though he's running around with Asgardian gods or giant rage monsters or super soldiers that have been frozen in time, or mutants, or intergalactic characters, even though he runs around with all these people and he interacts with them, he's still probably one of the most down-to-earth characters that's ever been created. He is the everyman. I can't remember who the interview was with. It might have been with Stan Lee. I think it was with Stan Lee. And Stan Lee actually said that the whole thing about Spider-Man is that you never see his face. Okay, everybody knows it is Peter Parker in the Spider-Man costume, but in the Marvel universe, especially way back then, nobody knew who Spider-Man was. He could have been anybody. He could have been white, he could have been black, he could have been Hispanic, Japanese. He could have come from any nationality whatsoever. He could have been anybody. Yeah, and you never knew who it could be. He could have been you. He could have been me. And that was the thing about Spider-Man. He could have been anybody. And that's really what he is. He is the everyman. He is the person that you read his stories and you think to yourself, yeah, actually, yeah, I do near enough exactly the same thing. All right, I don't get into a spandex costume and jump around rooftops and that, but there's a lot of things in there that I can relate to. And that is why Spider-Man is one of my favourite comic book characters ever. Now to the comic, and I don't know if other people will agree with me in this. Is my camera? No, that's right. It just looked like it was a bit Tracy sort of thing, a bit fadey sort of thing. But no, it's all right. My favourite, absolute favourite, Amazing Spider-Man story, and again, there are loads of stories I could have chosen. There was the one with where we got Harry Osborn, who becomes a drug addict. We've got the death of Gwen Stacy. We've got the annual where Peter Parker and Mary Jane get married. Marvel Superhero Secret Wars #8, where Spider-Man gets his first black costume. There's an absolute load of comics I could say that has Spider-Man in it that I've enjoyed reading and absolutely love. Not all of them I have. Some of them I do, some of them I don't. But this has got to be my utmost favourite comic of Spider-Man, and it's Amazing Spider-Man 248. And again, this, I've only recently been able to pick this comic up in the American format. I've had it for years in the British reprint format, and there's two stories in it. One has got Spider-Man fighting the Wrecking Crew character Thunderball, which is a good story. It's, you know, it's another one of those ones where Spider-Man shows that you don't necessarily have to use your fists to be able to defeat the bully. The story in this comic that is the one that I think is one of the best and probably one of the most underrated Spider-Man stories ever is the backup story, which is the kid who collected Spider-Man. Now, in this story, there's a article written in the Daily Planet by one of the reporters, Daily Bugle, by one of the reporters on a kid who collected Spider-Man memorabilia. Any newspaper clippings that had Spider-Man he collected. He had a couple of bullet slugs that he actually dug out of a wall where Spider-Man foiled a bank robbery. You know, this kid is an avid collector of Spider-Man memorabilia, which to me it was, especially when you think this come out in 1983, late 1983. The cover date is January 1984, so it would have been around about October, November time 1983 that has come out. I would have read this probably a couple of years later in the British reprint comics, and to have a kid that collected Spider-Man, even though it was newspaper clippings, but in the Marvel universe, was a brilliant idea as far as I was concerned. As you read the story, Spider-Man tells this kid his secret identity, how he got his powers by being bitten by a radioactive spider, and you know why he does the things he does. The fact that the reason why he's a superhero is because he allowed somebody very close to him to be murdered by not doing something that he should have done, that for whatever reason, you know, for his own pedanticness, he didn't do. Um, you know, and yeah, he takes this kid. He shows him his web shooters. He makes a swing out of those web shooters for this kid to be pushed on. Um, you know, and this kid says that he always imagines what it would be like to be Spider-Man, and the reason why Spider-Man is his favourite superhero in the Marvel universe. And near the end, the kid turns around to Spider-Man and says, just before he's about to go, turns around to Spider-Man and says, "Can you tell me who you really are?" And Spider-Man tells him that he can't. He can't tell him, because if he did, and his enemies found out that this kid knew, it would put this kid and this kid's family and his friends into grave danger. Um, the kid turns around and says, "Okay, I understand. You know, as much as I want to know who you really are, I understand why you won't be able to tell me. And as much as I'm disappointed, you know, I understand you're not going to be able to tell me." And just before Spider-Man's about to go, he turns around, he takes off his mask, and he tells this kid that he's Peter Parker. And you know, he's just an average. Peter Parker himself is just an average kid who was lucky to get powers, and you know, this makes this kid's day. You know, he finds out who his favorite character, his favorite superhero in the Marvel universe is. You know, it's his best day of his life. When Spider-Man leaves, we find out that the kid is in a cancer ward. He's suffering from leukemia. He's not going to live, and that's one of the reasons why Spider-Man is there, because you know just wants to make this kid happy. You know, he wants to do something good for somebody, as he does for everybody that he comes into contact with, whether he's saving their life or just, you know, swinging past and somebody sees him. Um, you know, it was a very poignant story for me, even at a very young age when I first read it. To have a character, to have a superhero that, like I said, he ran around with all these these other superheroes with amazing powers and that, but he still took the time to go and see one sick kid who, you know, didn't have long to live, but he still took the time to go to see this kid. And, you know, even if it just cheered this kid up and made him forget that he was ill just for a few minutes, it would have been worth it for him, for Spider-Man, for Peter Parker, for doing that. And that's my favourite, my absolute favourite Spider-Man story ever. Um, so yeah, there you go. um, um, what more can I say? Hope, you know, this video is one of those ones that actually does win. I never thought I would say this, but I really hope I get third prize. The Flash angle, great. But good luck to everybody who has entered this competition. You've all done, like I said, amazing videos with some absolutely fantastic comics and some great characters. And yeah, hopefully Lady Luck will shine on at least 3 of us, and we'll get all what we wanted. So, like I said, good luck to everybody who enters this competition, and especially good luck for me. Hopefully I'll win the third prize. That's going to be so freaky if I do. So yeah, there you go. That's my favourite character, Spider-Man. The reason why he is my favourite character, and my favourite comic book with Spider-Man in it, Amazing Spider-Man, number 248. There you go. Take care. Ta-ta for now.